Well, it looks like we're live. So I think we were supposed to still do our names. So we have Khalees Solinger, and Laura, Marisa, and Peggy. I'm going to go ahead and start here. Move this over. And for this interview, I actually talked, because I'm in Idaho visiting my family right now, I actually talked with my sister, who is the lead dietitian for WIC here in Idaho Falls, and which is the Department of Health and Welfare office. I'm not going to go into too much about what it is, because I kind of feel like most everybody knows what WIC is, Women's, Infants, and Children. Anyway, so as I talked to her, I asked her first what led her to get involved with WIC, and she just said as she was studying to be a dietitian, she learned about the program, and she said it really hit her home in her heart, because she believed, I lost my earbud. So she believed in the program and the opportunities to help empower women and educate them and teach them how to better themselves and feed their children, especially those in low incomes. And especially as she learned more about the food stamps program, which is completely different, she didn't really like the way that was set up, because they don't require educational classes, and they don't have ways to help. They just give money for food, and that's it. They don't require anything else from it. So she felt like she believed in this program more. She also just said that she believes in families. She's a member of the church that WIC helps families. It helps them learn about good nutrition. It gives them the resources to feed their families nutritiously. She also said, okay, the next question is, what do you see are the most prevalent problems for families in this community? She said that there are a lot of single moms, and she actually speaks Spanish, and so she does a lot of her dietitian things in her meetings and scheduling with clients in Spanish. So she says she sees a lot of single moms that are just trying to struggle to stay alive and to stay afloat and take care of their families. And so they have really limited resources, limited education, and they struggle so much. So it's hard to see that, but then she also said that they see a lot of addictions and substance abuse. So then the next question is, how does WIC help children and families locally? She said that they give them opportunities for nutritious foods, because they get a certain allotment every month to buy specific things, and they can only buy milk and bread and cheese and fruits and vegetables and peanut butter, things like that. But they also give referrals to other community programs and resources to help them in any ways that they need, which is kind of amazing that they actually care enough about the families to not only feed them, but to help them find ways to help with whatever needs they have. They give them support and encouragement to continue on even when life is hard or they don't want to go on. The next question talks about if it's a child or family focus, or does it step in to help families, and that's where she says it really steps in. It helps these families that are failing, gives them education. There's a lot of families that don't even know that you're supposed to eat together as a family, so they try to help encourage that. They give them tips and encouragement. They give them education of ways they can strengthen their families through eating and being together. They encourage them to set goals and help check that progress for their goals. So it's not just about nutrition. And then you're supposed to ask 2 questions based on the chapter. I kind of didn't ask 2 separate questions. I kind of just talked about it, because I asked her, in the chapter it was talking about stepping in and being involved with people, and how to know when is okay to step in. And so I asked her kind of about that, like, if you see something, at what point do you have to record it? At what point do you need to report it? And she said that. So she told me some stories about, like, there was one time there's a woman that was speaking Spanish, and she was reporting an abuse from her husband, but she couldn't quite get it wasn't at her level of Spanish, so she had to go get some help, and they ended up having to report that, and they kept her there, keep her safe. She's also seen that we take, there's kids come in, and every time the kids come in, they get weighed. So she said that some little kids were taking off their shoes to get weighed, and she saw cockroaches come out of their shoes. And so they had to call Child Protection Services on those families, but because they have to document everything, and they do. They've had to protect women and families because if they see abuse, I mean, if they see bruises or anything, they actually document those things and keep track of them. So I guess I didn't ask 2 questions about that. I asked a lot of questions about what she had seen. So
5 minutes. That's
pretty much it. Yay!
good job. Excellent. Okay, any comments or questions? Fortunately, we don't have to ask questions this time. That was excellent.
Yeah, that was really good.
Hey, Laura, are you ready?
Yep. Okay. So the person that I chose to interview was a woman here in my area. She's actually LDS, and I know her. She's not in my ward, but she lives in another city. And so I called her up and did a phone interview. She is the chapter director for the Parents Television Council in here in Oregon and in Portland. And so what that is, the Parents Television Council is basically, I'm actually going to answer the second one so you understand what it is. Or which one? No. Hold on just a minute. Let me scroll down. It is, okay, so they go through advertisers and they see which, this is on answering the question of how do they help children and families locally. And just so you get a basis of you know, how it works, I wanted to go over that. They go through advertisers and they see which are advertising for shows with inappropriate content that are run during prime time, and they call them or contact them and ask them if they really want to support the content of the TV show that they are paying to advertise for. She herself wrote to several advertisers, and some said they didn't have any say in, you know, what the content of the TV show was that they were, you know, paying to advertise during. And she says that's not true. They do have a say. They can choose not to advertise. She said some say that they don't care, you know, if it has inappropriate content, and then some said that they didn't know that it was, you know, it contained that kind of content and would consider changing. She says overall, nationally, their efforts help protect children from indecent material by going after the advertisers who support them. And they try to save the Family Hour television by advocating for family-friendly television shows during prime time mainly. They have seen some positive changes come about, but they've also met with a lot of opposition. So how she got involved was she got an email from them for a campaign that they were doing, and she signed the petition, and from there she really decided that it was important to open up a Portland chapter. She believes that there's a lot of junk on TV and that children are exposed to it, and she wants to help get rid of that as much as possible. Some of the most prevalent problems for families here in the community is just it's a really liberal area, and children are exposed to all kinds of things that are inappropriate and shouldn't be acceptable, but are told that, you know, especially like in a public education setting, that it's all acceptable and we have to open ourselves up to broad ideas, or if you don't, you're closed-minded. She said that there's an attitude of just not taking responsibility for your actions. She feels that lots of children are left to their own devices at a very young age, and they're not given a lot of guidelines from the get-go. And she is also really concerned that schools are changing even history to support some of the liberal views in the area. She had to defend Christopher Columbus, as an example, to her children, because the schools were teaching that he was an evil guy. And anyway, I won't go into that because of time, but there's some very concerning things here that we are up against. She said that in answer to, do you feel that the organization is child or family focused? She said yes. Its whole purpose is to protect children from inappropriate content on television. She also I asked her, what do you feel is the biggest hindrance to the success of the PTC in the Portland area or in the U.S. in general? And she said it's either pessimistic attitudes or apathy. She said her brother was very negative about her involvement with this program, and he argued that there are so many other negative influences on children that she can't stop them from viewing those negative things and all these other things that they are going to view. So, is that my time? Oh, okay.
That's 4.
Okay. And so she just, you know, that was kind of his pessimistic attitude. She also feels that people sometimes think, oh, I'll just not watch that then. But having that attitude isn't effective, because even if you aren't watching a bad show on TV, your neighbors might be, and they will talk to your kids, or their kids will talk to your kids. So she's like, my kids still know about some of the trash on TV because of what they hear. So it does matter. You can't just say, I won't let my kids watch that. You need to be more proactive in getting out there and defending, keeping that family hour clean for kids. And then lastly, how is funding raised for this program? Most of their funding comes from private organizations or people who are willing to donate. That was a question I had asked her. And they've held conferences and had celebrity endorsers, but after the economy crashed, they'd had some big endorsers pull out. So they haven't been able to do as much as they used to. So she said, if you want to donate, you can go to parentstv.org and donate there. So that's
perfect. What I know.
All right.
Any comments?
Amazing. I didn't know that there was advocacy out there that people could do that.
Yeah, really. That's amazing.
I'm not familiar with that organization. That's awesome.
That's really cool.
Okay, I will start. I interviewed my daughter who used to work with CPS. She initially started working for CPS because they did not require a master's degree in social work, and she was able to work on her master's while she was working for them. She says the most prevalent problem of families in the community is a lack of problem solving and coping skills. CPS helps children and families locally by mitigating risk for and addressing incidents of abuse or neglect, and providing families and children with resources to stop as well as recover from substantiated abuse or neglect. And as she pointed out, obviously this is the best case scenario. It doesn't always work this way. She said the organization is children and family focused. The first priority is to strengthen families by keeping them in their home together with resources to address the risk. When that is not possible or fails, CPS steps in and places children out of the home while working to address safety problems before a child returns to a previously unsafe environment. She said the legal system, as far as CPS is concerned, is oftentimes a barrier to serving children and families appropriately. She said there are inconsistencies from one judge to another on how abuse is defined and what should be done for the child, and many times the assistant district attorneys representing CPS are not highly skilled. Individuals can help the children and families served by CPS by providing respite for overstressed families and by reporting suspicions of abuse or neglect so that families can receive the services they need but rarely can access on their own. I asked her how she felt about working for CPS. It's a very hard job. She said it was rewarding in seeing children start believing that there was good and help that they could trust, and in seeing parents take responsibility for their roles and making hard changes for the sake of the children. As far as the challenges, she said parents often don't see their fault in bad things happening to their children. They want to blame everybody else. And of course there's horror story after horror story of abuse that children suffer at the hands of those that they should trust. The long hours are very difficult. She ended up quitting the job when she was placed in a very dangerous situation. She said the burnout level and turnover is very high with CPS because their caseloads, they are so heavily burdened. And then you have social workers who are caseworkers for CPS who don't do a good job, flat out don't do a good job because of the burnout and the environment. She said the legal system is hesitant to respond and step in. There's uncertainty as to how much of the parent's role the state should play, and she said there's a long list of challenges. She did find her time there rewarding, but very difficult and stressful. And because of that, very few caseworkers for CPS stay there very long. And that's it.
Wow. I cannot even imagine. She's probably
I thought the points on the viewpoint from the step family were really interesting. And I think this is an area, it's a difficult area because there are so many problems at times with step parents. And unfortunately, it makes it very difficult for the good step parents like you. And I don't know what the solution to that problem is.
Well, I think when you were talking, it just reminded me of, did we read it this week? Or I know we've read it at one point in the semester about how the real problem is just the lack of functioning within the families and the lack of, was it Elder Bednar's talk? Just that, you know, people aren't taking responsibility for their action, and so there is this confusion that, oh, you know, who's in charge of the kids and who's going to be responsible for this, when ultimately it's the parents need to be the ones in the home teaching the children. And if we could get that, here's my point, sorry, I got a little sidetracked. If we can get that internal desire to keep the commandments, then we don't have to have all these external forces that clearly aren't working because people aren't operating with that internal basis of morality.
Exactly.
That's what I wanted to say.
Very good.
Yeah.
Amen.
Sorry, that was great.
Thank
you.
Agree with that
Okay,
one.
Marisa?
Okay, so I interviewed this girl that is out here this summer. She's interning for an organization called Educate and Empower Kids, and she was talking about how she first got involved with even wanting to apply for this organization, and she said that after taking this class, she really got involved and learned about this Educate and Empower Kids and just felt like, you know what, I need to do something. And she never thought she could do anything, just having a bachelor's. And so she thought, well, how can I really be an advocate for the family? And so she found, I guess, through this internship that she was actually able to make a difference. And the reasons being that there's just a lot of pornography going on with kids, or I guess the increasing numbers of kids viewing pornography is going on, and she also felt like she needs to educate parents on how to better handle their children. And so I asked her about like what problems she saw in the community, and where she's more online, she just said that she felt that every community is affected by pornography and social media, and she just talked about how the technology usage has just gone up, and parents don't know how to talk to their children. And so with this, she feels like phones have just taken precedence over face-to-face communication, and so she feels like the problems are that families aren't talking to each other. They're either in front of the TV, in front of their phone, and it's just like it's become a major problem. And so I asked her about how this organization helps children and families, and she said it's kind of hard because where they are online, that they do a lot of outreach stuff, and so the guy that's over it is LDS, but it's not an LDS organization, if that makes sense. And so what he's asked them to do is to just go within whoever's interning their church and to talk, I guess for us, like the young women and the young men, and just to have conferences with them and our firesides, and just to talk to them about like the effects of pornography, and just to make them more aware. And she said that she definitely feels that this organization is child-focused. They do have a lot of, it obviously is for the family, but what they want to do is to educate parents on how to properly, well, I guess really just teach them, you know, you need to be paying attention to what your kids are doing. And so just some follow-up questions that I asked her was, how did she feel like this organization was actually making an impact on the children and family? And she said that, in her way, she just said the big thing is that for parents is exposing the realities of technologies. And so with this organization, they're helping parents to understand that technology needs to be managed, and that even just teaching parents how to use technology is another thing that they've done to help children, because as parents, our biggest role is to make sure that our children are always doing what they're supposed to be doing. And so she says that she feels that they made an impact. And so the second question was more out of curiosity, kind of went along with the reading, but it was just like what advice that she would give to parents on how to educate themselves to be better parents. And I loved what she said. She said, don't pretend that your children are better than they are. They may not be immune to the world. Just because they're a good kid doesn't mean that they're resilient by nature. They need to feel loved and encouraged, and it needs to be in a positive way. And some other things, I asked her more questions about it, but some things that they do to help parents to help their children is they have actually a step-by-step or age-by-age parent guide of how to talk to your children about sex, like when to introduce it and what concepts to introduce. And I felt that was kind of interesting because I don't know if it was in this class, but we had a discussion board talking about Oh no, it was actually in a different marriage class, and we were talking about, well, when do you set the boundary with your child? When do you tell them about sex? How do you tell it to them? Um, and I just thought it was interesting that I feel like usually we wait until kids are curious about it when we should be starting, I guess, when they start understanding the body parts and we teach them about it. So I really thought this was an amazing organization, and I felt like they were doing a lot of good. So that was just kind of how my interview went.
Excellent. You're right on the nose with 15 seconds left.
Woo.
Good job. I've not heard of that group. I think that's awesome. I think education
So in my
is so important.
developmental psychology class, we talked about that, and we had to go like it on Facebook, that Educate and Empower Kids.
Yeah.
So that's interesting.
It's a cool organization. I was looking at it, and I was thinking I was actually going to apply to intern there before I found this other one, but I don't know. I feel like they have done a lot. Like, they actually do a lot more than I realized. I'm like, it's just an online organization. What really can they do? But that's just where our society is going, is everything's online. So what better not to target them online? Sorry, meeting.
Are we ready for our summary?
Yep, sounds good. That was awesome, Marisa.
Okay.
That's, I think, a great organization. So, all right, I will go ahead with the summary. So Khalees spoke with her sister, who is a lead dietitian for WIC, and she got involved because she believed the program that it would help empower women. She didn't like how the food stamp program didn't provide education, and she liked that WIC did provide and incorporate education. She said there was a big struggle for single moms, and this program gives local families nutritious food. It gives referrals to other programs, so they're just kind of looking out for the whole welfare of the entire family. And it helps educate the families to be more cohesive, like encouraging them to eat together. They try to also help protect women and families from abuse. I talked about the Parents Television Council, which is, they try and go after advertisers to encourage them not to pay to advertise during, for shows that are inappropriate, and especially during the primetime hour when a lot of families are viewing television, and their efforts, some of them have been successful, and in some cases they're largely ignored. But it's still an important fight to advocate as parents and concerned citizens for decent programming on television when children will be viewing, because we know some of the negative effects that come when children view inappropriate content on TV. Peggy spoke with her daughter, who worked with Child Protective Services. She worked on her master's while working for Child Protective Services. She said the biggest problem was the lack of problem solving or social skills in families. The organization is child and family focused, and they try to keep kids in the home, but that doesn't always work. She said the legal system creates a barrier for doing their jobs, and sometimes attorneys are hired that lack the skills they need to help adequately defend families or children. It's a really hard job. She said parents don't take responsibility for their actions and tend to blame other people, and it's lots of long hours and dangerous circumstances, and the burnout and turnover is very high, and there's uncertainty over the role that parents play. Marisa spoke with an intern from Educate and Empower Kids, and she did this because she took a class and got involved. She didn't think she could do anything, but realized that she could. She said that there's a real problem, and this is kind of the focus of this group, is just the amount of pornography that children view. And she wants to educate parents about how to help their kids. Parents don't know often how to talk to their kids about this issue, and families spend a lot of time on their devices instead of speaking with each other face to face, and that's a real problem. She says that parents need to talk with their youth about the effects of porn, and also people could go in and meet with youth groups and do the same thing and just educate them on some of the negative effects of pornography. She said the organization is child-focused. It teaches parents to be aware of what kids are doing, and it helps parents understand the technology that their kids are involved in, and that they also needs to be managed. She said that parents shouldn't pretend that their kids are better than they are, that they should have kind of their eyes wide open, and parents need to talk to their kids about sex at an earlier age than some are. Kind of when they may be asking questions about it, and take time to educate their kids so that they keep those communication lines open.
Beautiful.
Excellent. Okay, I think we've covered everything. That's awesome. We want to look at next week's assignment?
Yeah, I'm going to stop the broadcast real fast and we can talk about next week's assignment.